Story 1. Buy a small house and a car. I'm nearly 50 and have never had either. I was homeless for over 20 years, and while I am no longer homeless, I will never get a good job. I am part of the working destitute and always will be. Story 2. Funnel it all into investments or business opportunities. At 35, it's not enough to retire on, so the money will be put to work so I can increase my revenue streams. Story 3. Pay off all debts. Move out of the area to a nice spot on the beach or in the mountains. Put the rest in a high-yield savings account and invest some. Then just relax. Story 4. Well, to quote the Bare Naked Ladies, I would buy you a house. I'd buy you furniture for your house. Maybe a nice Chesterfield or an ottoman. Well, I'd buy you a K-car. A nice, reliable automobile. I'd buy your love. I'd build a tree fort in our yard. You could help, it wouldn't be that hard. Maybe we can put a little tiny fridge in there somewhere. We could just go up there and hang, like open the fridge and stuff. And there would already be food laid out for us. Like little pre-wrapped sausages and things. They have pre-wrapped sausages, but they don't have pre-wrapped bacon. Well, can you blame them? Yeah? Well, I'd buy you a fur coat. But not a real fur coat, that's cruel. Well, I'd buy you an exotic pet. Yep, like a llama or an emu. Well, I'd buy you John Merrick's remains. Ooh, all those crazy elephant bones. We wouldn't have to walk to the store. Now, we'd take a limousine because it costs more. We wouldn't have to eat boxed macaroni and cheese. But we would eat it. Of course we'd just eat more. And buy really expensive ketchups with it. That's right, all the fanciest Dijon ketchup. Well, I'd buy you a green dress. But not a real green dress, that's cruel. Well, I'd buy you some art. A Picasso or a Carvinel. Well, I'd buy you a monkey. Haven't you always wanted a monkey? Story 5. I'm assuming it's $1 million after taxes. Pay off my student loans, thankfully under $30,000. Invest about $750,000 in high dividend stocks. Put about $150,000 into high-yield savings, still below the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation limit. The remaining roughly $70,000, I'd pocket into my checking account. Pretty standard, pretty boring. I keep my day job and live as I normally do. The only exception is using some of that $70,000 for a 2-week Scandinavian trip. Story 6. If I had $1 million, I would pay off my son's home, buy a car for me that isn't constantly broken down, and I would get my teeth fixed so that I could eat real food. One can dream, I suppose. Story 7. Not a lot. First, I'd have to convert the cash to my local currency, which would be a huge pain. Then I'd be questioned on how I got these dollars and ultimately jailed for some offense or another. Story 8. I would start a business where, in the charter, it would be employee-owned, and the owner or chief executive officer cannot make more than 10 times the lowest paid employee, including any gifts or bonuses. With those proceeds, I would start a second business that ran within the same parameters. If that one was successful, open a third, and so on. Story 9. Buy an apartment building in an expanding area. Live in one apartment and rent out the rest for some extra income. Then live my normal life, but with my expenses taken care of. Story 10. Pay off 2 of 5 children's houses and buy homes for the other 3. I know people will wonder, how? So, $300,000 is owed, which leaves $200,000 for each child without a house. Buy $50,000 of land, build a 1,100 square feet accessory dwelling unit for $125,000, with an extra $25,000 in trust to pay property taxes for 10 years. Story 11. First, I would drop to a casual nurse position and work once a week for a year. I would max out my tax-free savings account contribution, then pay off the remainder of my student loan, which is $34,000. Next, I would pay off my car, which is $37,000. I would give my mom, dad, and brother each $100,000. With the rest, I would buy a ground-level condo or townhouse with a yard for my bunny, leaving about $80,000 to supplement my working only once a week for a year. Story 12. Honestly, in 2024 dollars, about the same as I am right now, just have a much bigger safety net. Not even sure how much earlier of a retirement $1 million would buy me. Maybe put some into earmarked funds, such as a travel fund, new car fund, or a picky about next job fund. I don't know if I would even pay off my mortgage because I am at a decent rate and it's affordable. Story 13. Pay off my house and loans, fix my car, then update my computer and finish building my significant other's computer. Then invest the rest and continue to work like nothing happened. Story 14. Invest 90% of it, keep working, and continue living my current lifestyle. It's not enough money to retire or quit my job, but it is enough to get ahead financially and retire earlier than expected. Story 15. I would take $100,000 and invest in an area in Miami that is about to explode. Developers are building 8 huge apartment buildings in this area, and at the moment it's a bit scary and depressed. I know groups of people who are pooling their money to buy the smaller buildings that are left, rehabilitating them, and renting them out to retail tenants. I would help a group of women from Honduras that have worked in my mother's home and took care of her when she had her heart surgery, and I lived overseas. They went to her apartment and cooked for her daily. I would get them all new cars, help with their rent, and so on. I would get my mom a private room at the nursing home where she is. She currently shares a room, which isn't bad, but I think she would love her own room. I would get some healthcare things taken care of that I haven't been able to do to lack of health insurance. Knee surgery, hip surgery, new glasses, and replace some veneers. Do I have any money left? See, I don't know because I'm terrible with money, and that's why I don't have $1 million. Let me go ask the bare-naked ladies. Story 16. A few ideas immediately come to mind. Take a nap. Buy a used vehicle. Rededicate my life to the things I love that unfortunately don't pay the bills. Go to the dentist. Smile. Story 17. Pay off debts. Not too much. Thankfully only around $35,000. Buy my girl a new car if she wants one. She loves her 2002 Honda CR-V and doesn't want a car payment. $100,000 in a high-yield savings account for my brother's kids. $450,000 to $500,000 on a house. Buy a nice drone, a Can-Am Riker, save the rest for a rainy day, and take it easy at work without worrying about overtime. Story 18. Like in cash? Deposit it. In my bank account, move it to total market investments. In investments, nothing, keep doing what I am doing. 1 million isn't what it used to be. Story 19. Buy a better house, sell the old one. Buy a better truck, sell the old one. Take my wife to Bora Bora because she has always wanted to go there. Invest the rest. Story 20. Buy a decent but humble piece of property in a quiet part of the world with some okay facilities and just live off the interest of the remainder. Try to make sure it's as self-sufficient as I can, its own groundwater well, solar power if possible, that sort of thing. And then keep working my remote job until I'm sick of it for good. Then retire. Story 21. On a serious note, I would not retire. I would do some combination of paying off debts and investing it. I would probably take a nice trip, but nothing I would not be able to do now. I just would not have to save for it. I am young, $1 million is probably not enough to live the life I want to live for the rest of it, but it would certainly bring security for the rest of it. Story 22. $100,000 to pay off my debts, my parents' house, fix everything I need to on my car, buy a duplex, live on one side and rent out the other for additional income, and invest the rest to make it work for me. Finish up by getting my registered nurse degree and live my best life on my terms. Story 23. Pay my debts off, finish paying off my parents' house for them, buy one for myself, then with the last few grand, buy a My Chemical Romance ticket from this morning's scalpers. Story 24. Pay off my debt, buy a few lower-cost items I've been eyeing but have been using the money to pay down debt, then put the rest in some form of savings account and continue my life like I didn't have $1 million. Story 25. I bought a house built in the 1930s. I didn't know it at the time, and naturally, the inspections didn't reveal anything, but this wacky house I seemingly bought right at the tail end of the market before it got insane has issues. The foundation goes from crawl space to slab back to crawl space with access to only 1/3 of those areas. There's about a 1-inch gap between the trim around the roof and the gutters. I have been battling a rat infestation since I bought the house and learned that it was an ongoing problem. It's so bad that no pest company will take me on as a client because they can't guarantee their work. due to their inability to address all the potential entry points, especially with that gap in the roof. When it rains, the underside of the house takes on water and there's a musty smell. I run a dehumidifier constantly, but having it professionally remedied will cost me close to $30,000. The wiring, which seemed like the only real issue at the time and one I was ready to tackle, looks like it was done by an 8-year-old. Within the first month, I had to remove the back carpet, revealing asbestos tiling underneath. That became my first problem to tackle as it was in the master bedroom. I've got the tile out and the room encapsulated but still want and need to gut it to solve other problems. The insulation is basically worthless. My heating costs are astronomical. I keep a clean house, but within the last month or so there are fruit flies everywhere. Everyone I know is suddenly battling fruit flies, and none of us know where they're coming from. Are we in hell or something? And my health is failing pretty fast, so as more problems pile on, I'm less and less able to take care of anything at all. If I had $1 million right now, I'd set this house on fire and move into a house that was built within the last decade. Story 26. Buy a piece of property and stash the rest in index funds, and enjoy the money from the return on investment. Withdraw no more than 4% yearly. You would never have to work overtime again. Story 27. $1 million isn't that much. Certainly a lot, but not enough to buy a mansion and retire today. I'd invest it, continue working, and withdraw from the investment money when I need a bit more cash, but not plan to withdraw any on a regular basis. Then, I would continue working with the financial security to not need to keep working at any bad jobs and retire early. Story 28. My house is financed at 2.75%, so I would talk to an advisor about whether we should pay it off or not. Fix some things on this house, buy a second home to rent out with the plan to move my kids into it in 5 to 7 years. Invest the rest to pay for the kids' college, take a vacation, and maybe sell my classic car and buy a much nicer one. Story 29. Honestly, 300,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Ethereum, 100,000 S&P 500, 50,000 Russell 2000, 50,000 NASDAQ, 100,000 aside for other investments, 200,000 in longer-term United States Treasuries, and the other 100,000 for renting a cheap apartment, 1,000 to 1,500 a month, and other frugal living expenses. Get a job and relax from there onwards. Story 30. Hire a lawyer and charge my ex with criminal harassment for the past 6 months of harassment he has done to me. Then I would be scheduling an appointment with one of the best gastrointestinal doctors in the world and hopefully can eat food again. Story 31. Given that I am now in my mid-30s, have 3 children that are 2 years and under, and a wife, I'm allocating $600,000 into 15 to 20-year investments to retire by around age 50, and using $400,000 for current needs, also known as a down payment for a bigger house, starting college funds, living needs, etc. Story 32. Finish college without having to worry about expenses and probably go for a second major since I wouldn't have to worry about working. I want to major in baking and mathematics. I know it's a weird combination, but it's what I enjoy. I'm currently majoring in baking, but if I could add mathematics to that, it would be awesome. It would probably make it much easier to figure out this 4x4 Rubik's Cube. Whatever was left, I'd use to invest. I'd probably split it between stocks focused on dividend-paying stocks and land parcels. I'd probably keep a notebook for the land parcels so I could keep track of them more easily. Story 33. Put half away, pay off all my debt, and play the market with the rest. Continue working without the stress of paycheck-to-paycheck worries. Take actual time off without the fear of needing to work overtime for extra money. Long story short, be alive. Story 34. I'd buy water well drilling equipment and drill wells for all my neighbors who don't have water. I'd hire people to copy the Metal Organic Framework 303 water maker that Omar Yagi's lab at Berkeley developed. I'd build some affordable small houses. In my area, I can build a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,200 square foot house for under $50,000. I'd open a tool library, makerspace, and laundromat in my town. I'd buy thousands of trees and bushes and plant them, then hire the best nearby plant grower to keep doing that. Story 35. 1. Pay off my medical bills. 2. Put about $50,000 into a high-yield savings account for an upcoming surgery. 3. Put a down payment on a house or condo. 4. Buy a replacement for my beater, a nice car but not too nice. 5. Buy some jewelry for my mom and grandma. 6. Get my dad a pinball machine he's always wanted. 7. Pay for my brother's college. Save the rest. Story 36. If I put a full $1 million into an annuity, I would guarantee 3% growth every year, so I would just take that much out yearly and enjoy the extra $30,000 per year to whatever I am making now. 3% is the minimum growth, so by the time I am ready to retire, there will be more than $1 million in there, and I can start taking out more for retirement. Story 37. First things first, I need a car. I won't be splurging on anything crazy. The brand new Prius Prime with the solar panels will be more than enough. Then I'm investing in real estate. I'll buy an apartment in the capital city of my country and some land in a remote area to build a house.